Hello and welcome back to the Games Kingdom. My name's Carl King and today we're going to be going through the second part of a video for Spellcrow miniatures, and these are their new Werewolf hunting pack and the Minotaur. In the previous video I did the unboxing of these models and sort of putting them together, and also did a sort of preview of some of the other parts and components and models that Spellcrow kindly sent to me, which were some goblin archers, some heads that I'm going to use for some elven cavalry for fantasy armies like Oathmark and Saga Age of Magic, and also some weapons, sci-fi weapons, which I am going to be using on some Stargrave models. So let's kick off, and first off we have one of the Werewolf hunting pack. So as you can see here, this is the first one, and I think that this is sort of painted up quite nicely. They were excellent models. Very few components, the sort of arms and hands, which you could sort of mix and match. They came in, as I say, a pack of 3, and you could sort of mix and match things. The jaws and things were, some of them were loose, but you got to put them on the model that it came with. But I decided to sort of change around with things like the, as I say, the arms and the hands on a couple of things, just to sort of mess around with the posing, and when I was happy with the ones that I wanted, I sort of went with those and then painted them up. So as I say, you can see here, and these will be going into, as I say, my fantasy army for both Oathmark and Saga Age of Magic. So that's the first one there. The second one we painted up in sort of similar fashion but slightly different sort of colours and palette. So as you can see here, again, this one had a specific arm there that you had to sort of put on this, because it was a two-part thing with the stone sort of rock at the base of the model. But then the other hand, I sort of again sort of played around with some of the posing and sort of went with what I thought was quite a nice dynamic pose. But as I say, they've all, I think, painted up really nicely. I'm very happy with them anyway. And then sort of did some different sort of things with the base, sort of put some tuft and some new flowers that I got recently. And then this is the third one in the pack, and I painted that with a slightly sort of different look. So it didn't go sort of colourful with the sort of markings and sort of areas sort of thing. So it's a bit more, as I say, a bit more muted, but hopefully you can see here that the colouring and things have still come out quite nicely. And the fur, I sort of did some sort of nun oil on that at the end, just to sort of tone that down and sort of highlight it up at the same time and give it a bit of shading. And then obviously on the sort of wrists and things, you've got the sort of bronze sort of bangles and bracelets, and then sort of the studding, I painted those up in similar, as if they'd sort of been punched into the flesh. But yeah, all in all, very pleased on how these guys have turned out, and I think they'll be a quite nice and formidable looking unit on the tabletop. But they can obviously also be used as individual sort of models in games as well. You know, if you're using them for role-playing games, that sort of thing, and sort of characters that might be lycanthropes. So highly recommend this particular set of werewolves, as I say, from Spellcrow. Very nicely done. Nice resin models. So that's those 3, and we'll sort of just move those out of the way, and we'll bring in the biggest model that they sent me, which is this lovely Minotaur. Now I went for a dark toned skin for this. All of these models that I've just been sort of showing off here were sort of painted using GW contrast paints for the skins, and then as I say, on the werewolves I sort of did the raised area on some of those as well, but on the Minotaur all of the skin area on this, hopefully this is coming through, is contrast paint, and then did some sort of bone and similar for the sort of bone on the weapon at the back there, and also on the horns, and then obviously on the sort of bones that are part of a sort of weapon on his right arm. And then I sort of muckied them all down with some washes and different colours, and sort of gave it a bit of a sort of filthy look in certain areas. You know, as Minotaurs I would think would be living in those sorts of conditions. They're not obviously known for their hygiene in fantasy folklore. And then sort of painted up their bits of armour and a few bits of clothing that they've got. Sort of cloven hooves were given a similar sort of treatment, and then obviously sort of painted the chains, and the sort of axe head was painted with a army painter sort of iron colour, and sort of gave everything a bit of a wash over, just to sort of, as I say, sort of dirty it down. And again with the fur, did a bit of nun oil on that as well, similar to the werewolves, just to sort of again go into the recesses and provide some shading. But at the same time, when that shading is there, it obviously sort of brings out the highlight of the previous layer of paints that you've put on. So I sort of did that, and then just gave it a quick little flick with the sort of fur colour again, just to sort of bring back those areas that might have gone a bit too dark. But again, I think this has come out quite nice, and I'm sort of quite looking forward to getting this onto the tabletop. I'm not sure if I'll have to start potentially a new army for this. I'm not sure if it'll fit in with the elves that I've got, but it might go with one or two other things. And again, you can use these models for role playing as well as your sort of mass ranked and file and sort of skirmish sized fantasy battles. So again, excellent model from Spellcrow, and it's one of those, as I say, that has a multiple sort of set of uses and things. And for those people who just like to paint models up and things, this is an excellent kit. Again, not very many parts. The arms, this left arm came complete with the full weapon. The tail needed to be snipped off a sprue, and I did have a bit of an accident where it sort of I was snipping it off the connections on the sprue, and the tail sort of snapped in half. So had to sort of fix that with some super glue, but that worked out quite well. The bone weapon on the hand just sort of has got a little nodule to fit into a hole on the back of that sort of bandaging area on his right wrist, and that goes in quite nicely. And both arms fitted well. The two horns were separate, and that was about it really. Quite nice model, very few pieces, and yeah, all went together and stayed together very nicely. I used again for all of these 4 models, I've used Gorilla super glue. I think that's very strong, and hopefully will mean that nothing will happen, nothing will fall off. Hopefully won't get any damage. And as I say, these are lovely models. Go and check out the website for these and other new releases that they've got coming out, www.spellcrow.com. They're based in Poland, and yeah, the models came across fairly quickly from the date that they sent them, and they have an excellent range of models for fantasy and also sci-fi, and they're improving their ranges all the time, including for those on their own game Umbra Taurus, which I've done a previous sort of video review and things on. So if you want to check out my website, there's other videos on there in regard to that, and also a couple of the starting factions, of which there are now several more. So we'll end the video here. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.